There are absolutely certain things that we need to understand about the diagram on the board. In honest, it has to do with the internal resistance of cell. So what is the internal resistance of cell? Very simple. It's just the resistance that occurs within a cell that stops it from supplying enough current to an external circuit. Take for instance, if this is an external circuit and you have cell here that supplies current, total current to the external circuit, but within the cell there is an internal resistance restricting the flow of current or reducing the value of current being supplied to the external circuits. We need to deal with it in the first place and then know how such internal resistance, affects the functionality of the cell. So let's begin. So the first thing we need to understand is that E is the energy given as EMF of the cell. Alright? The second one is the maximum current that this cell supplies to the external circuit. That is I. Alright? Good. We need to also understand that these external circuits, at this point, there is a potential drop. There is a potential drop. So PD across R1 and the R2. Good. By the time we take into consideration the parallel connection of R1 and the R2, and then find the total resistance, we'll be referring to two of them as RT, that is total resistance of the external circuit, okay, which is being supplied by currents from cell. Alright? So that's what we're going to do. The another one we need to understand is potential difference. Look at, there is a potential drop across the internal resistance of the cell. Of course, this cell will be affected. So we take into consideration potential drop across the internal resistance of the cell. Very, very important. If that is the case, it means that low internal resistance will allow the cell to give high amount of current to the external circuit. Conversely, high internal resistance will stop the cell from giving sufficient amount of current to the external circuit. So in summary, what I'm trying to say is this. If the internal resistance of the cell is large, small amount of current is allowed to flow to the external circuits. However, if the internal resistance of the cell is very small, it means that large amount of current or high amount of current is supplied to the external circuit. That's the summary of what I'm trying to say. Oh my goodness. This is interesting, isn't it? Alright, so before I continue with this trend, it is time for you to consider subscribing, giving me some thumbs up, and you know what? Share with your friends, students, and networks. You must not forget to put on the bell button for constant notification. Of course, things like this will always come your way. Alright, let's fall back to this. Very, very important here. If this is the case, if we have satisfactorily agreed that things like this need to be taken care of, therefore it is time for us to state Ohm's law, and that is I max. I'm using the word max to represent the total current flowing or being supplied to the external circuit by the cell. That is I. And then we have the energy from the cell over the internal resistance of the cell, because that is what affects the efficiency of the cell. The internal resistance affects the efficiency of the cell. If we take care of this, then we are halfway solving the entire problem. Isn't it interesting? Very much interesting. So now what do we do next? We find out what happens here. After finding what happens here, we replace with E, and that will explain the importance of E in this equation. So let's go. Look at this. Potential drop across the external circuits, right? Is the next thing we are going to take into consideration. So if we want to find this, it should be V is equal to E, that is the energy from the cell, minus its internal resistance value, that is minus R, potential drop, minus the potential drop across the internal resistance, because that is what affects the cell, or the efficiency of the cell. So minus the potential drop across the internal resistance. Take note of this, very, very important. So the next thing we need to ask ourselves, if we have succeeded in getting this, it means we need to make E, that's the energy we're talking about. We need to make E the subject. So it becomes capital V, which is the potential difference across the external circuits, and then plus small v, which represents the potential drop or difference across the internal resistance of the cell. We must know that. Good. So let's go back to this. If we have agreed that E represents all of this, we can just substitute. No, there is something important here. Something important here. We know that V, this represents the potential drop across the external circuit. Okay? That is this. Very, very important. Now we have to put it to represent that. Current, then RT, alright? Total resistance. It is total resistance, but it has to do with the external circuits. That is this. And what happens here? Plus, this is going to be I again, but this time around we are talking about the internal resistance. So it will assume small r. Good. That is small r. Alright? So if we do this the proper way, E is equal to I is common, we bring it out, and then we close R, we cannot use R to represent RT. And then plus small r bracket close. So let this, another relation found. Let's finalize things over there. So we have this already. So we almost through. There's nothing there again. If we have reached this point, that means we have succeeded in generating a general formula that will enable us to solve any problem coming from internal resistance of cell. See you there. Stay put to the end, but don't forget to subscribe. Come on. What are you waiting for? Are you not finding value in this? If you have found value in this, subscribe. Come on. Thumbs up. Share with your friends, networks. Just name it. Promote the channel, okay? Do something for the channel. We can do better than just watching. All right, that's by the way. Let's go. We have I is equal to, rather E, not I. E is equal to I, bracket open, plus small r. All right, this is E. Don't get confused. This is E. Don't get confused, please. So if we have this, what do you think happens? Hey, this is interesting, isn't it? What do you think happens here? We can now make I again because it was I that we made the subject in the first place. We can still make it the subject here by dividing through with this whole factor. So we have E all over R plus R is equal to I, brackets R plus R, all over R plus R. Look at it. So we have this will take care of this will take care of this, and we're left with this. I is equal to E all over R plus R. So with this, we have what analysis to do. With this, we get something important. Yes, with this, we can now explain there are things we should, in the first place, take note of. And then since we have found this is the general relation we are looking for. So we have found it. The next thing now is to know that since we're talking about V is equal to IR, right? We're going to have this small v is equal to IR. This means, what does this mean? What does it mean? It means the potential difference, the terminal potential difference across this, the external circuit. That's the meaning of this. Take notes. Alright? What about this? This represents the potential drop across the internal resistance. Take it again. This represents the potential drop, the terminal potential drop across the external resistance. Capital R or bold R. Now, this means the potential drop across the internal resistance. That's what this means. So in solving problem and you are asked to find the terminal potential difference across the external resistance, apply this. If you also asked find the terminal drop or potential drop across the internal resistance, use this. Oh my goodness, I will stop at this point. I don't want this video to be longer than it is now. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Before I let you go, don't forget, subscribe, thumbs up, alright, share, come on. See you there.